up bright. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airwaves, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wide variety. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, ghosts in the hallway whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories are talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge here on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. Guys, we have the Bigfoot, Wisconsin Bigfoots, the Hairy Man of Dairyland documentary is available now on our Patreon page. Head on over to Wisconsin Caps on Patreon and check it out. You can watch that for just $3. It's less than a soda. And you can also head on over to Paraflix Paranormal Plus and stream it that way. If you guys want to meet the Caps team in person, I am going to be at the Lodi Public Library here in Wisconsin coming up June 30th. And then I head to Cedarburg, Wisconsin, July 17th. We are doing a CE5 event looking for aliens and UFOs and other weird lights in the sky. This is going to be a joint project with Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, as well as PBS Wisconsin will be out there filming. You guys can head on out. This is July 19th. Head to wisconsincaps.com and check out the public events page for more information. Well, then we are going to be in UFO Days in Elmwood, Wisconsin, July 26th. I will be at Silcon in Gaze, Illinois in September, and Van Meter Visitor Festival in September as well. And then a special library presentation at the Neenah Public Library where we will also be doing a paranormal investigation. You don't want to miss that one. All right, guys, with that all being said, we have an amazing guest here with us who has traveled across the United States and beyond. Allow me to introduce him to you. Just a reminder to everyone, today's episode is pre-recorded, so if you have any questions or comments and we're ignoring them, that's why. My guest today is Tate Hieronymus. He is originally from Missouri, and he has lived in Iowa, Mexico, California, and is currently in Florida. He has appeared in Finding Bigfoot and worked on Bigfoot Beyond The Trail by Small Town Monsters, participating in 7 or 8 episodes. He created the Sasquatch, A Search for SABE series, the Bluff Creek Project Podcast, the Native Giants Podcast, and has a new series coming in 2025, uncovering the truth of Sasquatch, narrated by Holiday Reinhorn. Jeez. He is a member of the Bluff Creek Project and the BFRO and has filmed a rare interview with Bob Gimlin. That sounds awesome. Please welcome to the show, Tate Hieronymus. Welcome, man.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Even when it is not in the morning when I wake up from my nap, I still can't read bios. I don't know.
I can't even read my own bios, man. Trust me.
Well, then I don't feel so bad. I'm glad. But how are you doing here? How are things down in Florida?
I can't complain too much. You know, it's a good day. Having a great chat with you, having a good couple of these like lemonade beers. They're really nice.
Nice.
And yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I don't even know where to start. I suppose we can start with Bluff Creek Project, because I mean, this is, you know, where Bigfoot pretty much started, you know, for the United States and the people here. Well, not the white man here in the United States. But so what I would like to start with, I guess, is you've researched all over the U.S. and I want to compare and contrast the Florida creatures and stuff that you've studied versus the California. You have 2 pretty much completely different environments. What have you found between the 2 that is similar, and what have you found that's different?
Different and similar. Not too much, actually, to be honest with you. I think the interactions are about the same. You know, the typical wood knocks. That's usually what I've heard in Bluff Creek, and that's what I've heard down here in Florida on a few occasions. As far as like the researching aspect of it, you obviously 2 different types of environments. You got Florida, which is more of a swampy, tropical kind of a place, and you got California, which is in some areas a temperate rainforest, and really mountainous. So I think just that aspect, it's a lot harder in some ways in Florida because of the humidity, because there's a lot more things that could bite you and end your night pretty badly. But also on the West Coast, you got mountains and you got really bad, harder areas to get into. So each have their own give and takes, but yeah, the similarity is just about the same so far from what I've noticed. Nothing too different.
Now, we were talking before the show. I still haven't been, excuse me, I still haven't been down to Florida myself, so I'm very naive to what's going on down there. But do you have like, we see the area, the terrain and stuff of California, you know, Expedition Bigfoot, Finding Bigfoot, even Wisconsin is pretty similar to the woods and stuff in this latitude here to California and the Bluff Creek area and stuff. Do you have that kind of environment down in Florida?
No, it's pretty flat down here. It's just a lot of swamps, actually, especially where I'm at, because I told you before, I kind of live near Miami, so I'm near the Everglades. There's places out here to go and research that I will go and frequent when I can, when it's not blazing hot and humid. But areas where you can actually get into are limited because it's a lot of swamp water. You need like swamp buggies or airboats in most of the areas. Now, it's going to change a little bit as you go further north, like Orlando. It's going to get more there's going to be a lot more places to actually get around in that you won't need as much transportation like a airboat or a swamp buggy. And further north, you get like Ocala is a pretty good area. There's a lot more places to go around. And then even in the panhandles, a lot better, less swamp. So it just kind of, I don't know. It's pretty flat everywhere. You could be in the middle of nowhere and still hear the highway, which is weird. So, I mean, it's kind of a bummer, but it's you're also out in the middle of nowhere at the same time. It's really bizarre. And a lot of places you have cell phone service, which is surprising to me. So, yeah, you're isolated, but you're not. It's really weird down here.
Huh. How far across is like the average part of Florida from coast to coast?
I want to say the furthest part, like if you're talking about in the not the panhandle, but like the bottom part of Florida. So for me, from where I live, I'm pretty much maybe 15 minutes from the beach where I live, and to go from my house to almost Naples is about 3 hours drive, coast to coast. So some areas maybe close to 4, but yeah, about 3 to 4 hours.
That's cool. That bothers me, the whole fact that you can go in the middle of the woods down there and still hear the highway.
It does. Yeah, it bothers me too.
There's very few places, even here up in Wisconsin. I mean, and like we were talking, I go up to like the Chequamegon National Forest and stuff in northern Wisconsin, and that's all woods. And even places up there, you still hear. I mean, you're still hearing the highway noise and stuff. And you shouldn't, when you're several miles into the woods at that point, you still shouldn't hear the highway. But
well, what's nice about this one particular place is, yeah, you can hear the highway, but there's only one road into this place, and it's like it's forever to get on this road. And even so, there's that, but yeah, you're still in the middle of nowhere. Just because there's a highway, you can hear it. Doesn't mean animals, if there are Sasquatch down here, won't utilize these areas. It's still really isolated. You can get lost easily. But yeah, it is a bummer that I can hear the highway, because I kind of just want it to be alone and quiet. So,
well, I would think that probably wouldn't have too much of an effect on the wildlife down there, with the road noise and stuff, because they're used to it, so they're, if anything, it's probably going to help them, because it masks a lot of their sounds and audio and stuff, so they can move around a little bit easier. But
oh yeah, 100%. I think it does help in a little bit of that kind of helping to be silent. They use the highway to mask their sound.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. So do you down in Florida, do you do a lot of research like via boat then, or like whatever?
No, like the airboats. No, I just take my Jeep. I just go to places that I know I can get into, and then there's been places I've had some I cannot say that word. There's been some times I've had some stuff happen here. I'm just gonna go with that one. A couple times, both times we were with Alex Petikoff. We heard some wood knocks down here the first time we did a Florida run, and then he came down here maybe a year or so later, and we did another Florida episode down here, kind of in the same general area, maybe an hour away. And the first time we did something down here, we got knocks, and then another time we had a tree either fall over or get pushed over by what? I don't know. It'd be cool if it was Bigfoot. We didn't see it happen, so we can only speculate at what happened, really. But so I've been frequenting those areas where those things have occurred, and I've seen bears several times down in this area. We found mountain lion prints, so we know there's animals there. There's predators. And I put out a trail camera, and I caught a bear on camera, deer and turkey. So there's a lot of food sources down here, for sure. So it's a good area. I've kind of been focusing here when I do go out. Yeah, and just like I said, just places where I can get to in my Jeep. That's where I drive to.
Do you have a lot of like large trees and stuff in that area? Because I know a lot of the swampland up here, they don't get very good roots, so they don't get very big. Or if they start to, they basically just fall over from the wind and that.
Yeah, there's some big trees out here. I wouldn't say like anything too crazy, but I mean, if you've seen like pictures of like the Florida Everglades and the trees and everything, in a forest, kind of like that.
Okay. More sporadic then, or?
Yeah, kind of more sporadic. Kind of. There's a lot of like these these really small palm trees that they're hard to describe, but I don't know the terminology for these trees, but there's different sizes and different shapes
of trees. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, trees. They're everywhere down here. I just go out there.
Fair enough. So okay, well, I this question's bothering me, so I got to get to this one now. So you live down in Mexico as well.
Yes.
Did you do neither one of us are going to talk.
I know.
The good thing this is a podcast. Did you do Bigfoot research while you were down in Mexico?
Not actually, no. Mexico was kind of like the precursor before, like, of my Bigfoot career, I guess, or the kind of the start. Really, I've been interested in the whole Bigfoot thing, and then Mexico was just kind of really, where I really wanted to kind of get more involved and learn more about the subject. And then, yeah, it wasn't until I moved to California I really started going out in the field.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, because I haven't heard, I'm sure that, you're going down to Texas and into Mexico and stuff, that they would have Bigfoots possibly down there. We hear about them in South America and that as well, or type creatures at least. But I've never talked to anyone down in Mexico that has had reports or has been working down there. Do you know of anybody that's down there working?
Not personally. I've talked to Kathy Strain, and I think she's kind of on the same page that I am, or at least from what I remember talking to her before last time. It's possible that there's Bigfoots down in Mexico. There's because I lived in Ensenada, which is the Baja Peninsula, and there's a place it's like a observatory. It's like it's like pine forested mountains, kind of like what you would get in Southern California in the desert, but like high up. So it kind of reminds me a lot of like that. So I was like, hey, it's similar terrain. Why couldn't there be a Sasquatch down here? I mean, I'm more than sure there's deer down in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard, I think like there's a Black Panther that would be crossing the border here and there sometimes, from what I've read or something a long time ago. But I think it's possible that there's Bigfoots in Mexico, and I haven't gotten a chance to do any research down there yet, but I'm hoping someday I will be able to do so.
Okay. I had to ask, if you lived out there, I figured, maybe there was a chance, but all right. Well, so you said that after you moved from Mexico, you moved up to California. Did you move to the Bluff Creek area, or were you just kind of researching there? How did that happen?
No, I lived in Ventura, actually, which is kind of outside of, LA. It's kind of closer to Santa Barbara. Malibu, Santa Barbara is kind of in between that. But it was like because when I was living in Mexico, Finding Bigfoot, I moved to Mexico in 2011. I think Finding Bigfoot came on in 2010. So I was watching every episode. They did a Bluff Creek one. And I was like, I got to go there. And we're in California. So made a trip, went up there. And we actually didn't make it to the film site. Didn't know how to get there. There's directions, but it was kind of hard to figure out because it's really thick forest out there. So couldn't make it. And then, I went up there again in October. I actually ran into Cliff and Bobo, and that's how I got to know them. And then I just kept going up and going up and going up. And that's kind of how it started, me going out there every year to Bluff Creek and doing my thing up there. Kind of how I got on the path of Bigfoot research, I guess.
Very cool. Very cool. So you've spent a lot of time researching up there. Have you been up there recently, like in the past year?
Yeah, because when I lived in California, I would go twice a year because I'm with the Bluff Creek Project, and they usually do a camp out twice a year, once in July and October. And so when I lived there, I would go up July and October, so twice a year. And then I moved to Iowa. I moved back to Iowa because I'm from the Midwest originally. And I started going out there annually, just once a year, since I moved back to the Midwest and on the East Coast now. And I was out there this past October, and I'll be going out there again very soon.
Very cool. For anybody that doesn't know or is not familiar, can you kind of talk a little bit about what is the Bluff Creek Project, who's involved, and what are your goals?
Yeah, so the Bluff Creek Project, I came into the project around 2015. But the Bluff Creek Project started with Steven Strufert down in Willow Creek. they kind of were he was wanting to find the film site, because I think like Cliff Barackman and Bobo had an idea where it was. Dana Perez had an idea, and all these different people were like, "Oh, I think it's here." And so what Steven wanted to do was get a couple people, and he got Ian Carton and Robert Leiterman to join him. Those are two other members of the Bluff Creek Project, and they were kind of just trying to find the place. And they were talking to Rowdy Kelly. He does a lot of stuff in like film and television and finding Bigfoot and stuff like that. But he's a local resident in the area, and he ended up joining them to help find the location. Yeah, and they were trying to find it. They were using old maps and pictures from books and photos from Renee DeHinden, and they were like taking measurements of the sites. And they were finding these stumps that matched what was in the PG film, and they're still there today. And there's like the big tree that you see in the film, that's still there. All these little artifacts that you see in the film, they were looking at that and measuring it and like, okay, this is starting to add up. And they eventually confirmed that in 2011. And then they started putting trail cameras down there, and hopefully to catch Bigfoot on camera again. That'd be really cool in Bluff Creek. But so that's an ongoing project still. But in doing so, they were able to get photos of a Humboldt martin, which was thought to be extinct in the area. And because of the camera project that the Bluff Creek Project is doing, they kind of proved that there are still Humboldt martins in that area. And so it's been an ongoing process. And then I kind of joined in, like in 2015, like I said. And then I was like, I was wanting to do something, and I started a podcast for them, and kind of been doing that. But so the Bluff Creek Project members are I want to give them a shout out. It's Robert Leiterman, Steven Strufert, Ian Carton, Jamie Wayne, Dustin Severs, Rowdy Kelly. Did I say Dustin Severs? I'm forgetting people, man. Myself, I messed myself up. Now I'm probably forgetting somebody.
Don't worry, they won't forgive you.
Yeah, I know they won't. Oh, Kip Morrell. Kip Morrell. He's a good guy. I almost forgot you, Kip.
Very cool. So you've actually found the original film site, and I haven't had the chance to get out there yet, but I've heard like you have like kind of little like flags and stuff there that kind of help people see how it's laid out and envision it. There's like a logbook and stuff that people can sign, and is that right?
Yep. And that's not only do the Bluff, it's not just a hangout trip for the Bluff Creek camp out every year, but it's also a trip to maintain the trail to get down to the film site, because if you didn't maintain it, it's going to get overgrown pretty fast, even in a few months time. So July and October, they kind of go down there, and they'll clear some of the dead fall that has fallen down and some dead trees, and kind of get those out of the way and just kind of clean it up to make it look nice. So when you go down there, it's a lot easier to find. And there's flag tapes and kind of to kind of help you along the way, but it's also to kind of point out where markers were, like, okay, there's a flag tape here, and this is where Roger Patterson was standing when he filmed Patty on camera, and it's all these flags they're representing what is what and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. And there's a logbook, you can sign your name when you go down there and everything. It's kind of fun to flip through it and see who's been there.
Very cool. So it seems like this is like the pilgrimage that most Bigfooters have to take, is to go out there. And for as I don't want to say like remote, but as like as an out of the way place as this is, it's not like a museum or anything like on the side of a highway. It seems like at one point or another, no matter when you go there, you're probably going to run into someone.
Sometimes you'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah. It happens. Don't get me wrong. It's obviously a famous place. A lot of people go there, but sometimes you can go there and not see anybody for a week. Because it's actually really remote. I think people don't realize how remote it is, but when you actually get out there, it's like, man, this is way out here. And I would recommend, if you go there, have a good car with decent clearance, because And make sure your tires are good, because we've had flat tires. I've gotten flat tires out there, and I've been out there many times, and it just happens. Because there's some spots where you can get cell service, but yeah, if you get a flat tire way out there, you're walking out. If you don't have a way to get back, or nobody with you, or a spare, it's not going to be a fun time.
What better way to Bigfoot than forced Bigfooting? That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Your car breaks down in the middle of the woods. Guess what you're doing for the next couple miles? Forced Bigfooting.
Yep, exactly.
That's right. Yep, exactly. No, nothing better than that.
No.
I made the mistake one year of going up north in Wisconsin here, and there's an area that we go in and camp and stuff. And I tried to drive down this road. So my goal was I was going to go in December 31st and come out January 1st and start and end the year on a bigfooting trip. Well, I did, but what happened is I went in and it was like plowed, but just the top layer.
Oh,
and
no.
my car sank down about a foot into the snow. And this is remote area, and none of the tow trucks wanted to come get me till the next morning. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do until the next morning? So yeah, but that was my forced Bigfooting trip of the woods in the snow. So yeah. Forced.
So hopefully you had some drinks to keep you company, I guess.
I don't remember that so much. I was more on the phone arguing with the insurance, the sheriff's department, and the tow trucks going, the tow truck company was literally like 2 miles away.
Oh my God.
When he finally did come pull us out. So the sheriff came, and he came out there and he's like, well, I'll help you push it out. Yeah. Okay. So the sheriff pulled in there. Well, he came up behind me, and this is just, dirt, one road, back roads and stuff.
Yep.
So he pushed me out of the rut, and then I sunk down into a new rut. And I said, no, man, we need a tow truck. And he goes, okay, well, I'll get a tow truck out here. So he did. So he backs up out of there, and he's gone for like 45 minutes, and I don't hear nothing. Well, finally, the tow truck driver comes up behind me to pull me out, and he goes, yeah, I would have been here a lot sooner if I didn't have to pull the sheriff out first. So the sheriff got stuck behind me on the road as well. So good times.
Oh,
good times in northern Wisconsin. So
oh, that sounds like a jolly old time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it wasn't too cold or nothing, so we were kind of standing outside the car, just listening and stuff, and there were some creepy things going on, but
isn't that you said it wasn't too cold?
Not too
No, but that, like, it's funny because, like, I've been so conditioned to the hot warm weather. It's like, it's when you're not from an area and you're like, oh, it wasn't too cold, so we were just outside, and you're talking about there's snow on the ground. It's just funny how people in the Midwest, like, it could be 30 degrees and like, oh yeah, this is t-shirt weather. Yeah,
I was gonna say it was probably between 15 and 30 degrees out. So yeah, it was t-shirt weather. Not too bad. We just picked up. I told you we had Stacy Brown from Florida up here. Well, 2 weeks ago from when we're recording this, and he got off the plane when I picked him up at the airport, and it was 40 degrees out, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I left, it was over 100 degrees back home, and now I'm here, and he he was getting questions and stuff after the end of his presentation, and they asked him if he'd ever been to Wisconsin before, and he said no, and he goes, and Barnaby told me this was a very nice, the best weekend you've had up here in a long time, and it was 70 degrees, and he's like, this is freezing. He had 2 pairs of pants on, like 3 t-shirts. I'm like, and you poor guy, you were not ready for Wisconsin.
No. I will say when I first met him, again, it was working with STM. We did a whole Florida run, and we were up in the area he researches in. And I swear, because the few nights before we were in Ocala, and it was like Midwest winter weather. It was like 30 degrees, even 20. And like, I had a buddy heater going. I was like by a fire. It was freezing. I just wasn't used to it, and I kind of miss being in the cold.
It's not so bad. Like, if people think it's really cold in that, and if you're standing still, it gets cold. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, 30 degrees is cold if you're just standing there, like, out in the woods or something. But if you're hiking or something, you're staying warm, and it's not that bad.
No.
Anyway, So yeah, so let's see. You moved from Mexico to Bluff Creek area or California, and then you went back to Iowa. Did
Yeah.
you do Bigfoot in Iowa and Missouri and stuff there?
I didn't get to do too much in Missouri. I did a little bit when I passed through and everything, but there was a little place in Iowa, maybe about an hour and 20 minutes from me, maybe a little less. And I was like, this place looks promising. I just got on Google Maps and I was just finding different areas because in the like Iowa, there's pockets of forests, but there's also a lot of houses nearby. So I was trying to find the biggest parcel of land that was forested, and if it was public or private or not. And I found a place, and I was like, this place looks promising. It has everything you would want if you're a Bigfoot or any animal. And I went there, nothing happened. And then my buddy Jeremiah Byron from Bigfoot Society, he was like, hey, there's a researcher that got some audio from this spot you always go to. And I was like, dude, send it to me. He sent it to me. I was like, dude, I knew this spot was good. And then, yeah, Jeremiah and I went there one year, and a tree either fell over or was pushed over, and we had knocks later that night, and he captured as a metallic zipper sound on his audio recorder, and he never got out of the tent. The weird thing was where his audio recorder was in relation to his tent was like a few hundred yards away, and in between his tent and the audio recorder was my car. So I don't know how that audio recorder picked up a zipper sound. But I've talked to a few other people, and apparently they can mimic a zipper sound because it's happened before on audio recording. So like, dude, with a tree getting pushed over, with the knocks and that zipper sound on the audio, we might have had Sasquatch with us that night. And I was telling Jeremiah, I was like, dude, this never happens, especially for somebody's first time out. It's really rare. I mean, I didn't think anything was going to happen because it's like a small place in Iowa, but sometimes the thing, when you don't expect things to happen is when they happen. And I'm not saying like, don't go into an area thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen, but secretly you're thinking something's going to happen. It's like when you genuinely think, I'm not going to even bother. Nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to just camp. That's when things happen. It's weird how that works.
It's like intention and thought, like they can sense that or know when things are set up and when they're not. So
yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like you want to trick them in manifesting an encounter, but it's almost like they know you're trying to manifest it, but you're playing it off legit. Just don't even care about Bigfoot, and you'll probably get something happening.
Interesting. Well, how often have you been out in the woods and had like trees fall over?
Only twice. Florida and Iowa.
Okay. See, that's what
I do. I take that back. 4 times I was present. 2 times I only heard it. Florida.
So you actually saw it the other 2 times.
I didn't see anything happen. Okay. So the first 2 times I heard it happen, and that was Florida and Iowa. Okay. And then the 2 times I was present when a tree was pushed over was in Bluff Creek. Jamie Wayne from the Bluff Creek Project, I was in my car kind of, trying to go to bed, get ready for bed. And he's like, Tate, I think a bear pushed a tree over, and he heard it. And then I was in Bluff Creek this past October with some good friends of mine. And I was going over footage thinking I accidentally deleted it because I hit something on my camera. I was like, oh crap. So I was trying to get that and then get ready for bed. And then they come over and knock on my window like, dude, the area where we heard a knock from, a tree just came down. I'm like, what? So there's been 4 times, twice I've only heard it.
Interesting. We were, I've heard it 3 times now where a tree has come down. The one I saw, I turned and saw it going down. And the other one I saw it go down, and the other one we didn't see. And it was a wide open, like reforestation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see there's no ground cover, there's no, trees on the ground or nothing, and you can see all the way through it because it's a.
Do they like put the trees in there, like machine, like they lined them up, or what is that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of forestry and stuff in Wisconsin and upper Michigan and that. And this was one of the areas it was a gravel area and they dug it all out and then they reforested it. And we were at a stick structure there and we were actually trying to do like a paranormal investigation of this. So we thought, well, let's look at this from this aspect. So we're doing like an EVP session, did you build this? What is it for? Stuff like that, asking these questions to the universe about the structure. Right. And I don't remember what the question was. Was it like, something about the structure? And this tree got pushed over in the woods right next to us. And like I said, you can see through the entire woods. It was really close. And we didn't see the tree on the ground. We didn't see it go down. And these are all big trees.
It's so weird.
Yeah. So that was the only time that I didn't see it happen. But I mean, like, you've been out in the woods numerous times, and to only have the 4 encounters. I've been in the woods quite a bit as well, and I've only heard it 3 times. So it's just kind of weird. Like, I'm trying to gauge how often just trees randomly fall over, and
that's like
conjunction. What's
that saying? If a tree falls in the forest, would somebody hear it or something like that?
If there's no one around to hear it, did it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how often do trees actually just fall on their own? Like, it's because like I've been to these areas several times, and it's like, okay, it's possible a tree did fall, but when you're getting other things besides, like if the tree just fell over and that's all that happened and nothing else happened, that'd be one thing. But like the Iowa thing, I'm not going to say it was or wasn't Bigfoot. I'd like it to be Bigfoot. I want it to be Bigfoot. Obviously, I'm biased, but at the same time, it's like you got to play devil's advocate. But how much of a coincidence can it actually be if a tree gets pushed over? Then you're actually hearing knocks, and then you hear a zipper thing on a zipper mimic on the audio. It's there's one coincidence and there's 2 coincidences, and then the third. How many more do you need for it to even possibly be related to Bigfoot in that circumstance? And it was like, I don't know, man. It might be a Bigfoot.
It's interesting. The property that I'm talking about here, with the tree falling over, was in Upper Michigan. It's the Hayden Adventure property. It was featured on the Super Hooper episode of Finding Bigfoot.
Okay.
Craig Salk got these game camera photos that were featured on the episode. He opened up his property for like people can come see the evidence and take a tour of the property, see where everything happened and stuff. And he had this area of the property called the Island, and it was like very swampy, very marshy area. And there's a 2-track road that goes around this little island. And he would say that in the spring, whenever he would start to clear up and get ready for the tourism in the summer and that this road would always have trees across it. Like they would get knocked over. Like, basically like, this is our area. You don't come back here kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's really interesting because earlier when we were talking and I asked you, do you get a lot of trees falling down in the swamps because of poor root structure, right? Like not very big because the roots can't go down into the water very deep and stuff. And that's what we're thinking is happening up here. But now that we're talking about this other stuff, I wonder more if these trees are literally just being pushed over, like he thought that, this is our area, you don't come back here kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure like what the representation of a tree getting pushed over is, all I know is it happened. Do I know if it's because of the tree structures in the area? It's because it's like loose soil and it's not really deep roots. I will say the area where we heard the tree pushed over in Florida, it was in an area where there's solid ground. And I would say the roots would be fairly deep and the trees are pretty big. Granted, there's a lot of trees that have fallen over, but also at the same time, Florida is prone to hurricanes. So I don't know how strong the winds had to be to push those trees over down there or not. So it could be, but there was no wind there was no wind that night that it happened. and it's on audio too. It was clear as day, and it was a few hundred yards from us, and we could not. But the problem is, it's so thick. Where this happened, it's like there would be no way to investigate it, really, and it'd be impossible to find the tree that fell down because there's so many of them. But yeah, I don't know if it's. And in this spot in Iowa, there's no swamps in Iowa. It's really hard packed soil with deep roots, big trees with big trunks. And a tree came down, and it sounded healthy. It sounded like breaking a piece of celery or something like that. So I don't know. It's weird stuff, man.
Yeah, I've been walking through the woods up there as well, and we have poplar trees, which are kind of very flimsy little trees to begin with. They get maybe like 6 inches or 8 inches round at the biggest. And I've walked through areas and leaned on these trees, and literally they just snap off and fall over when you put a little weight on them. So I could definitely see like those breaking off in a good wind or something and toppling over. But that's not, again, like you said, that's not what went down when we're talking about these scenarios and that. So
yeah, I would feel like we would be able to tell a difference between a weak tree falling over and then a healthy tree getting pushed. And like, I guess you got to be a little realistic here. There's no way someone's going to push a tree over. That's the base of the tree is like the size of a car tire. That would be a ridiculous amount of. I think it's something a little smaller, but a healthy tree at that. But I don't know. Again, it's all speculation. What I think is what had happened, what kind of tree it was. I don't know. It's just weird, but it keeps me going back out and trying to get another incident like that to happen.
Have you come across any of the trees that supposedly like are pulled out by the roots and then turned over and shoved back in?
I have not, no.
Okay. Have you you come across a lot of like stick structures or anything down there, or in any of your adventures?
No. And then because I'm in different, like, yeah, I'm way out there, but I'm also in areas that people frequent. And if I find a tree structure in an area where I'm at, that means other people have probably been there. I don't really put too much stock into it because with the internet, there's a lot of there's a lot of information readily available to people, even hoaxers. So I kind of look at things like that with a grain of salt. I tend to focus my efforts on like other things, like minute tree breaks that you wouldn't catch with the naked eye. I would be like, why would that be here? And then trying to find tracks off a beaten trail, maybe with some overgrown area. Because who would fake a track there? If you're going to fake a track, you want it to be found. If you're going to fake something, you want it to be found. So anytime I see something like that, I kind of just be like, oh, maybe it's possible, but I always look at it with a grain of salt in my research.
I used to be really big into stick structures and that we had a lot of good evidence up at the Hayden property and stuff like that up there, and then another property in northern Wisconsin. But since then I've kind of gone, well, there's, I've seen a lot of like bushcraft and stuff when you go to the national forests and a lot of these hiking trails and that, whereas the places we were in Rhinelander and up in upper Michigan, the private property, I know no one else was there. So I'm a little more, either this was natural or something made it, but it wasn't a person, So, but when you go to these other areas, like you said, there's people hiking. If I'm there, someone else is there. But
yeah.
So go ahead.
No. You're good.
Okay. So what evidence have you collected that you think is viable?
I haven't really casted any like foot tracks. We found a couple years ago, we found some interesting tracks along this road called the Go Road out in Bluff Creek. It's like this paved road. It actually dead ends. It's like a 30-mile road. It's like the fastest way into the Bluff Creek area. And again, you can, like Alex will tell you, oh, I was disappointed when I rode on this road, and like there's a road here, but it's completely it's a misconception. Just because there's a road here doesn't mean it's actually very populated with people. But we found interesting tracks on this road off this side, and about 30 yards away we found a huge tree about this thick, a branch was broken over and off the edge of a road where it's like a 30-foot drop. I'm thinking, I don't think a person can do that. And there's tracks up here, and we were possibly hearing some response to our calls that we were doing, and all that's on camera. So that was one thing. There was another time. It was Alex and Eli's first time to Bluff Creek, and we were showing them around. Alex and Eli and I had something happen where we were the only ones getting into Bluff Creek because the other people were joining us the next day. So we get into Bluff Creek, and there's a spot where it's kind of really there's a lot of rocks, sharp rocks, where like this from a rock slide that came down. So we're clearing these rocks out because there's some really sharp rocks. We don't want to get it flat, and we're throwing the rocks down to the bottom of the creek. And as we're doing that, Alex is like, "Hey, did you guys hear something?" And Eli and I were like, "No, didn't hear anything." Eli picks up a rock and then throws it down the creek. Alex is like, "Hey, get out of the way," and he runs one way, and then Eli and I take cover behind my car. All these rocks start coming down. As we look up where the rocks came from, I thought I saw eye shine. So we're trying to like shine a light up there, get a FLIR to look, didn't see anything. And as we're looking up there, we hear something down in the creek walking away. And I was like, man, it felt coordinated. Mm-hmm. And so a couple ones I'll share too. The ones that I really think could be something. We were in a place called Laird Meadow that same trip with Alex and Eli when we had that rock incident. And we had a road group that went maybe a mile up the road, and they were doing calls. Then we had a group in the meadow, and it's a big meadow. So me and Alex were on the edge of the meadow, and there's this tree with some shrubs around it. And Eli and Jonathan were at that tree, and we were radioing to everybody like, okay, do this and, do a call now or whatever. And so we had one of our friends on the road group do a Ohio howl. And after he did it, we're kind of listening. And then Alex and I had something thrown at us. And we're like, what was that? And Alex stood up, and I was like, whoa, dude, this is cool. And maybe 20 minutes later, we heard a knock from the same direction, but further away. So that was really weird. And then my very first time researching an area where I go to every time I'm in Southern California, it's where I would go to when I lived there. I was out in the spot researching, and I ended up filming something on my FLIR, which right before the incident, I was doing some wood knocks, but the sound did not carry that well because I was hitting on this dead tree, and it was like, that sounds like garbage. So I do a whoop down in the valley and then kind of turn and go do a whoop over the ridge. And I was with a buddy of mine, and we're kind of talking after I do that. It was kind of cold, so he had like earmuffs on, but I wanted to hear everything, so I didn't have anything on. And so we're kind of just whispering back and forth. And as we're talking, I heard a response to my whoop. And I was like, dude, did you hear that? He's like, no, I didn't hear that. I was like, okay, I saw this little path that kind of goes up. We can kind of probably go there and see if we can see anything. So we walk back up, and we're seeing that we're kind of looking where the sound came from. And we see these, this eye shine, or like these two dots. They look, I don't know, like the size of dollar, like what do you call those things?
Silver dollar?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
They were huge. We were like, that has to be like 50 yards away. And we're doing this number because there's other lights in the distance, and we're trying to gauge, but we still can't really see what it is. And we actually had headlamps on, so there wasn't eye shine illuminated by itself. We had lights on, so it was causing the eye shine. And so I get my FLIR, and this is the first time I ever used a FLIR out in the field, so I couldn't really see. So I was like flipping through the filters on the FLIR. If you actually watch the video, you can see the color changes. Then I put the FLIR down to see if it's still there. And I was like, okay, it's still there. And I put it back up. And my friend was like, hey, should I do a couple calls? I'm like, yeah, go for it. So he does a call, nothing happens. Then he does another call. And he's like, dude, it's gone. And we ended up walking back to the car, composed ourselves, because we were like, I was freaking out, but also excited at the same time. And then we went back over to where we think this thing was standing, couldn't find anything. And I was like, hey, do you want to go camp somewhere else? He's like, I could use a change of scenery. And so we went back up the next day. We found some possible scuff marks and all that. My buddy Jonathan Easley at Western Bigfoot Exploration actually did a 25-minute video on it. And I recommend anybody who wants to see what I'm talking about, go watch that. Yeah, it's so those four possible encounters are like the things I would say are the most compelling encounters that I've had. I've had other ones, but those are the ones that really stand out to me.
Wow, that's interesting. I really like the rocks getting thrown down. Now I want to go back to this one because this is really interesting. You know, you're throwing these rocks like down an embankment towards the river there, right?
Yeah. So there's the road, right? And off to our left, it's a pretty much a straight drop, and then there's a creek down below it. And then up to our right, there used to be an old road, but it's a decommissioned road now. But you can still hike up there. But it's an area where there's a rock slide because it's for some reason that one particular area the rocks come down there every year, so the Forest Service usually cleans it out. And that's where we were clearing out rocks because we didn't want to get flat. And there's some really sharp rocks there. And yeah, that's so that's kind of the layout of it. So we're in the middle between this upper road and then the creek.
Yeah. So you're throwing rocks down at. I'm just presuming here this is what's going on, right? So you're throwing rocks down at whatever creature is down below you.
We didn't know there's anything down there.
Right. And the one that's above you is watching you throw rocks at this thing.
Yeah.
So it starts throwing rocks at you so that the other one can get away.
It was. I don't know if it was like trying to throw them at it, because like when we went up there we went up there the next day, and to replicate what actually happened, we actually piled rocks up there and just pushed them off with our feet. Okay. And the same result pretty much happened. It was like that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. And then when you're actually up there, you can see, because this happened at night. And if you're up there, you're like, man, at night you could probably see headlights coming through the trees and everything coming down. And so I think maybe what we did was, maybe if it was Sasquatch, or a pair of Sasquatch, I wonder if they were hunting and we disturbed them, because lower and high ground, they were probably doing that strategically to get whatever would be in the middle, like a deer or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think the idea was we were terrorizing whatever was down there that we didn't know was down there. Mm-hmm. Whatever was up here was going to cause a distraction. And it worked because we were like focused on that, but we physically heard walking in the creek. Like if somebody was walking in the water, you can tell the difference between that and then babbling brooks.
Yep.
There's a distinct sound. The three of us heard it at the same time. We're like, dude, did you hear that? And there's no way we could see what was up there, because whatever was up there took off. And there's like a bunch of trees. There's no way we're going to see down there, even with a thermal. And so that was just like the whole start of that whole trip. And it got weirder from there.
I wonder, like, down by the creek and stuff, if they were like fishing or looking for food or something down there, the one, and the other one was up on top as a lookout,
It could have been. So the thing about Bluff Creek, there's actually no more fish. There's like tiny fish. There's some crawdads. No. Well, because before there was a flood in 64, which is why the sandbar and the film site is wide open. Mm-hmm. Because where Bluff Creek drains into the Klamath now, it didn't used to drain in there before. And I think there used to be salmon that would go up there during the salmon run, but now because of the flood, where Bluff Creek drains into the Klamath, I've actually hiked up like at least a mile. That's a whole nother story for another time. But there's boulders like the size of cars up in that beginning part of the canyon. Yeah, and there's no way salmon can get up there. So where we were at, I don't think it could have been like looking for crawdads or, little fish to eat, snakes or whatever. My money was probably looking for deer or raccoons or whatever would be out there.
Something else that came down to get a drink.
Or it could be that too. It could be a way of just kind of hiding their numbers, how many of them there are. Because it's just like what was that? It's very weird behavior for any other animal to do something like that, because I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just find it weird. Like, I don't think a mountain lion would do that, like distract you because you're terrorizing something. I don't think a bear would do that. The only thing that comes to mind is somebody, like a person, would do that.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know. I think something with a higher intelligence saw what we were doing and then figured out a plan to distract us, and the plan worked.
I was gonna say a mountain lion or something would be very stealthy, especially if it was hunting you from above. It would not be pushing rocks down on you to scare off its prey.
Yeah, and a bear I think would have taken off from the sound of our cars and then the throwing rocks and talking and everything. And that bear would have
knocks the bears out of there. Yeah,
that bear would have shot out of there so fast. And so for me, it only leaves like either there was people out there that we had no idea. But you would think, the reasonable thing you would think would people would be like, "Hey, we're walking down here."
Yeah, stop throwing rocks at us. Yeah,
but none of that.
Unless the people down there thought that you were a Sasquatch throwing rocks at them,
Right. But even still, like I figured if it was people thinking we were a Bigfoot, they would have had something happen, But
yeah, especially if you guys are up there talking and making noise and stuff. So
yeah, it's just that whole trip for 2020. That was 2021. And what I like about that trip is I did a documentary about that from my perspective. And then my buddy Jonathan did one from his perspective. Then Alex and Eli did Beyond the Trail. So you can watch all three of these documentaries on the same trip from different perspectives. And that trip, I've been to Bluff Creek so many years, even up to today. And by far, that 2021 trip in July was the most active I've ever had in Bluff Creek to date. And probably the kind of more, I guess, aggressive types of encounters to date with that trip. It was a wild trip, and it's the trip that I look back on to the most. It's like, this is the best time or best activity I've ever had here, and it keeps me going back there to kind of just whatever I want to get, like what's the word? I'm trying to think. Like when they get comfortable with you, I'm trying to think of that word.
Like a habituation, kind of.
Yeah, that's it. I kind of want to get that going and get them used to me. So that's why I try to go every year at the same time. July is when I usually try and go. So hopefully we can get some stuff happen. It seems like every year has been dead so far, but it just takes that one time, that one Bigfoot in that area to change the whole trip.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you have a new project coming out this year. Let's see, what was your new project coming out this year? Sasquatch.
So that was an old one.
It says coming out in 2025.
So yeah, the uncovering the truth of Sasquatch was an old one, but this new one I didn't want to mention it yet.
Oh well, we don't have to. We can save it.
No, but I'll mention it. It's okay. Never mind. I'll just say it. So it's a new project I'm filming this July.
Okay.
It's called Bigfoot on Display. So basically the idea is I want to go to the different museums in the United States, like Bigfoot museums. So there's one in Willow Creek I'm going to go to, the China Flat Museum, and the NABC Cliffs Museum. And basically I want to talk to them like, hey, why did you start the museum? What have you noticed about Bigfoots in the area? And, all these different questions, and kind of like film the museum, kind of show people what it's like there. And then I want to go out into an area and research in that local area where these get in a lot of the reports and see what happens. So, and that's kind of like the premise of the show. And I already have things lined up to film, and I'm looking very much forward to that. So I have a lot of content coming out this July with that. And the SABE series, filming new episodes of that, and some new podcast episodes of Native Giants. I'm going to be doing like on camera podcasts, so that's going to be really cool. I'm pretty excited about all that. So there's a lot of new content need to film and get out.
and edit and produce and
edit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. That's awesome. So we have that's all going to be on your YouTube channel.
Yep, my YouTube channel, Tate Hieronymus. My people who are watching can see my name. It's just that name. No spaces, no nothing. Just that's on YouTube. You can find me pretty easy. And then my series is right below my name. So if you just look that up, you can find it too.
Nice. And I did get your YouTube channel in the show notes for when this comes out, so people can check that out right down there in the bottom as well. So that's really cool. So no, I'm looking forward to your museum stuff. I think that's a really cool idea. I haven't seen that done before, and I have one suggestion. I love gift shops, so you better gift shop of every one of those museums, because that's where I spend more time. If I spend 5 hours in a museum, I spend at least 6 hours in that gift shop. So it could be one shelf, and I'm going to stare at every little thing on that shelf. So
yeah, exactly.
I've been to the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado.
I need to go there.
I was gonna say you can hit a lot between Florida and California driving up there. There's quite a few. So
yeah, there's the Sasquatch Outpost in Colorado. There's because I know what's his name?
Arkansas.
Yeah, there's that one. There's the Expedition Bigfoot Museum in Georgia.
Yep.
There's a Skunk Ape headquarters down here in Florida where I live.
Yep. Sheely's. Yep.
Mike Rugg, I don't know if because I know he's in the process of selling that place. I don't know if that would be on the list or not yet. But that's in Felton.
There's a Bigfoot museum in West Virginia as well that opened a couple years ago down from not West the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh,
Flatwoods Monster Museum is here, and then down the street in a smaller area is the Bigfoot Museum. So you got that one too.
Well, then I gotta go to Lauren Coleman's in Maine. I gotta go.
God, yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be a limited series, but it'll be a fun one to do.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like it. I would love to do that. That sounds like an awesome adventure. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool, man. All right. Well, anything else? Do you have any other? This is going to come out the end of. I was going to write it down. This is going to air. June 16th. So, do you have anything else coming out? Any conventions or presentations or anything else after June 16th that you'd like to promote or talk about?
Nope. Nothing's going on. Everything's going to be pretty much happening August. Content wise, I don't have anything going up personally that I'm appearing at. So
nothing wrong with that. Gotta stay
nope.
busy.
Yep.
It's been an absolute blast talking to you. I appreciate your time and all your hard work, and thank you for all that you've done as well out in the Bluff Creek area, keeping that going and cleaned up and stuff for everyone to be able to experience that and go out and pilgrimage to the area. So
yeah, I gotta give thanks to the Bluff Creek guys. They're the ones that gave me a chance, and all the hard work goes to them, man. They do it year after year, and I can only get out there so certain times. So I appreciate the heck out of those guys.
Yeah, it's a thankless job. So awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, your YouTube channel is in the show notes for everyone to go check out. And thanks for coming on today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. I'll talk to you later. Take care. All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Thank you for liking and subscribing all things here on the Untold Radio Network. Head on over to Tate's YouTube channel. It's in the show notes. He's got a lot of great content. I'm looking forward to the museum stuff. That sounds awesome. As long as he gets the museum's gift shops in there. Yeah, gotta have that. All right, guys, until next time, take care, and I'll see you on the edge.